If you search for Counter-Strike on the Nintendo Switch eShop, a total of 4 games show up, and none of them are what you're actually looking for. While I've never played a Counter-Strike game before, I have played video games before. I'm not some alien from outer space who crash-landed on Earth with no way to contact his home planet, and had to try and make ends meet by starting a YouTube channel because I learned English from watching PewDiePie and Mr. Beast and wanted to be exactly like them. Definitely not that. Now, here's where I have to come clean about something. I'm the reason why you can't buy Frosted Cheerios in Canada anymore. I can't get into specifics because of the settlement, but let's just say it doesn't involve seeing how many of them I could fit into a certain orifice. Also, I'm not kidding about having never played Counter-Strike. Because of that shameful fact, I don't even know if bunny hopping is a real thing. The only type of bunny hopping I'm familiar with costs money and a thorough dry cleaning afterwards. Anyways, I hope it does, because that's where we begin our journey today with Counter Bunny Hop Strike Go Simulator Xtreme Deluxe 3D Shooter. According to the description, Counter Bunny Hop is an amazing game and is made for the player to experience joy from the gameplay or to train his skills at bunny hopping. As boring as all that sounds, I have to give the developers credit on the title. This is definitely a bunny hop simulator. What I can't give them credit for is the price. They're literally charging $20 for this thing. Sure, it may go on sale for upwards of 98% off regularly, but it's the principal skinner of the matter. As you can see though, the production values are through the roof and it's worth every single penny. Just kidding. The graphics are set to low quality by default, not that you can tell the difference between that and high quality. It only supports touchscreen controls in the main menu, and those only work about half of the time. And the developers decided to pull a pilot and not include any music or sound effects in the entire game. I don't think this is a Big Hero 6 situation where a random option was muted. I looked in the settings and there was nothing. Like my ex-wife, when I was giving her my all, there's literally just silence the whole time. But who cares about silly things like audio? What about the gameplay? Does it justify the $20 price tag? Dear God, no. Yes, it's a bunny hop simulator. You hop from obstacle to obstacle. Don't ask me why you have any sort of weapon equipped. They're literally useless. I guess they just wanted to complete the aesthetic. But the levels are bland and the platforming will cheat you regularly, causing you to clip through the side of a box you know you landed on. In bunny hop's defense, momentum does play a key role. Your speed builds up automatically, allowing you to complete the levels faster and make longer jumps. That feature has its drawbacks though. If you fall partway through a level, you have to dance around in circles and wait for your speed to increase when you respawn, otherwise you'll fail. Yet even with your speed at maximum, there's still some jumps you can't make. I tried this jump in the 4th level a million times and only made it once. Then right after that, there's several more jumps apparently even further apart. So I skipped that one. Naturally, the next level is glitched. Every time I got to a certain point, I'd die, even when landing perfectly. Crazy thing is, when bunny hop actually works, it's not the worst thing ever made. The platforming is okay for about 2 minutes, but it's just wrapped up in such a terrible package. A package that is a lie. Just like when my parents got an empty Nintendo 64 box from a friend and wrapped it up for Christmas and gave it to me. I was so excited to play GoldenEye, but when I ripped it open, all that was waiting for me was socks. And they weren't even the good kind of socks. They had no appreciation for my feet or my mind. Anyways, the lie from the developers. If you look at the promotional screenshots, there's multiple characters, but it's a single player only game. I wanted to reach out to the publisher, Insta Marketing and Game, to find out if there's supposed to be sound or multiplayer or anything, but I searched for them on Google and couldn't find anything. So there's no sound, no multiplayer, and apparently no developer. But do you know what is there? Loot boxes! Because they wanted to make this just like Counter-Strike, you can open cases to get new weapons, except it's the slowest opening in the history of video games. To answer your next question, there are no microtransactions here, but you get the feeling that they are, so that's fun, I guess? There's not really a reason to score this out of 10, it's garbage, and they literally want $20 for this. Ironically, for as bad as bunny hop is, it's not the worst game in this video. With a name like Tormentor-Action Fire Counter Shooter Game 2023 Gunstrike Simulator, you know it's going to be good. And when the title screen just calls it Tormentor, meaning the developers came up with the rest of the name when submitting it to Nintendo, hoping to capitalize on buzzwords like their wish, you know it's going to be Game of the Year type stuff. The first thing you'll notice is that you can't interact with the main menu at all with the controller. If you're playing on a TV, you have to take the Switch out of its cradle, tap to battle, and then you can begin. Brilliant move by the developers. While everyone else is using those cumbersome and uncomfortable controllers, they're utilizing the most underappreciated feature of the Switch. Then it's time to hop into the action. Well, it should be time. When I reconnected my Switch to the dock, I could only shoot with my Pro Controller, not move. So I had to use the Joy-Cons. Now, normally when you're playing a first-person shooter, shooting is assigned to a shoulder button. Archaic, said the developers of Tormentor-Action. The shoulder buttons here are used for jumping and ducking, with shooting relegated to the B button. This makes aiming and shooting so much easier for everyone with a second thumb on their right hand. And if you think there's any way to change the controls in-game, think again. They knew what they were doing and locked them in. Besides, you can spend several minutes remapping buttons on the Switch itself, so you shouldn't complain. Plus it has sound. That already makes it better than Bunny Hop. Before entering the frenzy of multiplayer battles in what the developers call the ultimate 3D multiplayer first-person shooter game, I decided to get some practice in single player. Enemies, as you'd expect with such advanced AI, are master baiters. They lull you into a false sense of safety, drawing you in until they don't actually strike. But they don't actually do much of anything. Wait, is this game bad? But Nintendo approved this. Why would they allow such a thing to grace their store? Do they not have standards? No, it's Nintendo. The makers of Fling Smash and Chibi Robo Ziplash. They're known for quality, so I'll trust them. Maybe the single player is just training for this exciting multiplayer shooter game that offers an immersive gaming experience. Yeah, that must be it. Because, I mean, the single player is literally 2 minutes long, sees you killing like 10 enemies, and that's it. I walked around the entire map twice, tried climbing the thing that looked like a ladder, and nothing happened. Alright, multiplayer, save this game. Well, first off, the controls are different from single player. The good news is that the right trigger shoots. The bad news is that it's still the same game. Multiplayer puts you in a cramped arena and gives you 90 seconds to get as many kills as possible. There's a health pickup on each side and a machine gun appears towards the end, but it's so bad. Simply moving with the right stick feels like you're stuck in a tub of Vaseline. Shooting is an absolute joke, and I'm not sure if I was facing bots or real people. One person was called your mom, but most enemies have names over like 30 characters long. When I went back a week or so after my initial playthrough, no one was playing, so it was just me alone in that room playing with myself. So for a game that's advertised as a multiplayer shooter, it's completely unplayable. But even worse than the horrific gameplay is the progression. You get 1 hero coin for each match, except to afford even the most basic weapon, you need 10 of them. So you need to complete 10 multiplayer matches to buy 1 weapon. And if you want the next weapon in that category, you need to complete 20 matches, then 30 matches. It's absolutely insane to me that Nintendo allows these games on Switch eShop. Like, is their only criteria that it has to boot up? Because from the company that featured the seal of quality on their games, quality should also be a concern. You know what? I'm tired of having old-timey gameplay mechanics like movement. So next up, I'm going to play Counter Bottle Shooter Pro Aim Master Target Bottle Shoot 3D Game Strike Pistol, except it's not actually called that on your Switch. Instead, it's simply known as Bottle Shooter Pro Aim Master. Right off the bat, the $10 million development cost shines through. Not only does it have music, but you can use buttons in the main menu. It's a massive step up from those previous garbage games. This is clearly going to be the best of the bunch. Well, I spoke too soon. Not only did it freeze within the first 60 seconds, but the music disappears when you get into the game. And sometimes when you click next to go to the next level, it'll kick you to the home screen, while other times it won't. Worst of all, there's no way to adjust the sensitivity anywhere. This game has Aim Master in the title, but no way to customize your aim. That'd be like a foot masseuse not letting you choose how soft or hard you want the massage to be. Desperate for a different control scheme, I thought that the target thing on the touchscreen was for options. Nope, it's a button to shoot, except you can't aim with the touchscreen, so you still have to hold a Joy-Con in your hand to use the touchscreen shooting. Very intuitive. Even with all the obvious issues though, yes, this is the best Counter-Strike game on Switch. No one in their right mind should ever buy this game in a billion years, or walk barefoot on hot coals. Feet should be treated better than that. But Bottle Shooter does have 30 levels, at least one of them is okay, and for the most part it does work. There is a survival mode, though it seems like you just have 14 bullets and that's it, meaning it has barely any reason for existing. You know what, everybody? I stand corrected. I am an idiot. The description says Counter Bottle Shooter is a fun game with fun gameplay. And you know that whole standing still thing? It's actually a unique shooting mechanic. I also don't know how it can have both relaxing gameplay and shooting that causes more adrenaline to shoot through your veins, but that's just how amazing it is. I take back everything negative I said. Give the developers your $6 right now. And for the last game in the video, we have Krispain Hero Roguelite Dungeon Shooter Fire Simulator Counter FPS World for $13. This is what started my journey down the rabbit hole. No, not that exclusive club I regularly frequent. I mean the rabbit hole of games that have randomly generated names meant to trick the lames who have no dames. It also had the most promising thumbnail and screenshots, so I had high hopes going in. Before we get to the gameplay, I have to highlight something amazing. So a lot of these games have text that sound like they went through Google Translate a dozen times. Krispain is no exception. Easily the greatest error is in the controls section. Instead of saying switch gun, it says switch bun. And that might be one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Even funnier than when my ex-wife's mother fell down the stairs trying to chase after a cat she swore was her ex-husband reincarnated. And miraculously, the developers somehow managed to misspell the word reload while also mislabeling the ZR button as XR. Anyways, the game. It's the most adventurous of the 4 titles I played. You have a gun, enemies spawn in, you kill them, and repeat. Emphasis on the repeat. Probably the best thing about Krispain is how it freezes for a second every time an enemy zaps onto the battlefield. Now, I know nothing about game development, but I'm assuming with a lot of these types of games, the developers buy pre-made assets or get them for free, use the default engine, and then just program in gameplay, not caring about how the end product runs. To that end, Krispain is just a bad game. The first couple of enemies are useless, while the third enemy is a demon that can fire a projectile and is actually something to fear. But I learned early on that the enemies can't climb stairs. I mean, even the zombies in The Walking Dead can climb stairs, and apparently also sneak up on people with relative ease even though all they do is moan and shuffle. No thought was put into design or balancing, so you can walk into an area and have a dozen enemies all spawn at once. Because they can literally spawn on top of you, and you can't really do anything while they're spawning due to the stuttering, you could die simply because you were frozen. And unless I'm an idiot, there's no way to compare guns. You can see the stats of the new gun, but you can't see the stats of your own gun. So unless you write everything down, there's no way to know if it's worth swapping weapons. And something super awesome I learned is that the weapon you die with is the weapon you start with. So let's say you end up with a terrible gun that fires exploding rounds which can take all of your health if they go off near you, and all of the early stages are cramped beyond belief. Well, guess what? You're gonna have a bad time. Seriously, the game sucked before I was stuck with the worst weapon in the game. Then it just became abhorrent. I learned that word from my ex-wife's mother when she didn't think I could hear her talking about me. I think what we learned today playing through every Counter-Strike game on the eShop is that Nintendo has zero quality control when it comes to digital games on Switch. You could literally buy some pre-made assets, copy and paste an item name from Wish, and voila, you're now a video game developer. I wish, see what I did there, that this was a one-off situation, but it's not. So join me as we continue our journey through the wonderful world of crappy knockoffs on Switch eShop. Next week, it's Call of Duty. Stay tuned. Oh, and if you're wondering about the fourth game that appears when you search for Counter-Strike on the eShop, it's called Ultimate Shot 3D Real Strike Shouter Counter FPS Simulator Games. The thumbnail features a Funko John Wick, and the game includes what appears to be a copy and pasted enemy from Space Invaders. You're watching the trailer right now, and yeah, it's bad. The only reason I didn't feature it in this video is because it was released after I'd blown my shovelware load on the other crappy games. But I guarantee you it's terrible, just call it pilot's intuition.